together. I want to take this opportunity to acknowledge the minister herself, who is the host of this webinar. Minister Didiza, thank you. Acknowledge all her dignitaries, Her Excellency Ambassador Kionka, who is already on call in this webinar as well. Ms. Tamara Matebula, who is the chairperson of the Gender Commission and Equality here in South Africa. Acknowledge as well the Food and Agriculture Organization country representative, Dr. Brave Ndisale. Dr. Ndisale, thank you very much. The minister, ladies and gentlemen, is hosting this webinar in collaboration with two very key stakeholders. One is Total Energies, which used to be Total South Africa, is collaborating with the department in this webinar, and Ecosystem Development for Small Enterprises, which is funded by the EU Commission as well. We also acknowledging Ms. Vangile Titi, who is the convener of all the 11 dialogues that we had in the country around food systems. I take this opportunity to welcome all of you as we will be deliberating. I am going to make this very special request to everyone that is on call, that we observe 1 moment of silence in honor of all our farmers in South Africa that succumbed to COVID-19 pandemic. Let us just honor them and observe 1 moment of silence. Thank you very much. We will now be starting right away with the proceedings of this webinar. The purpose why Minister convened this webinar is one, the country, South Africa, like any other country, had heeded to the call of finding sustainable ways of food systems in the country. And the department minister sometime in June launched a dialogues for all the 9 provinces. We also had an opportunity to have a national dialogue where pathways or ways of best handling food systems in the country were discussed and conceptualized. So today we found it very dim, the minister as the host, to convene you as women in the country, farmers, producers in particular, to come and share the outcome of those interactions or dialogues as we have. So we will be we will request to robustly so and with objectivity, after we had shared those outcomes to you, to also hear your view and your impressions as our very important stakeholders as women. Having said that, we're going right away to the first item of our webinar. I will be calling on Ms. Tamara Matebula, who is the chairperson of the Gender Commission and Equality in South Africa, to give us context on gender and equality. Mema Matebula, over to you, madam.
Thank you very much, Program Director and organizers. Thank you very much for inviting me. I just want to acknowledge the Honorable Minister of Agriculture, Land Reform, as well as Rural Development, Mamutoko Didiza. Let me acknowledge Her Excellency Ms. Rina Goenka. Let me also
Mema Matebula, you seem to be having some connectivity problems.
We have lost Mayor Mathebula, and I would suggest we go on to the next person, moderator.
Thank you, Administrator. In the interest of time, we will consider Mayor Mathebula immediately after she has sorted out her connectivity problem. We are very sorry about that. I am right away going to invite the Minister, Minister Thoko Didiza, to deliver her keynote address to this webinar. Minister, I give this opportunity to you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Lebu, our moderator for today, and your administrator, Daniel, who's supporting us. Your Excellency, Ambassador Kionka from the European Union, Chairperson of the Gender Commission, Ms. Tamara Mathebula, in absentia, she will be joining us, I'm sure, when she finds her connection. Our partners in this webinar, Total Energies, Ecosystems Development for Small Enterprises, which is funded by the EU, and other partners whom I may not have their names right now, but they are all welcome and actually appreciated their presence. Women producers and industry representatives, senior officials in the department, ladies and gentlemen. The year 2021 marks the 76th anniversary of the United Nations and the 26th anniversary of the Beijing Declaration and the Platform of Action. We will recall that the Beijing Declaration and the Platform of Action called for, among others, addressing the inequalities and poverty that still persist in society and advertently affecting women and children. It also affirmed that the eradication of poverty based on sustained economic growth, social development, environmental protection, and social justice requires the involvement of women in economic and social development, in equal opportunities, and the full and equal participation of women and men as agents and beneficiaries of people-centered sustainable development. We all appreciate that in looking back at Beijing, we can say some movement has happened in a number of countries which actually have improved the political participation of women in parliaments and legislatures, which has also enabled women breaking, in some instances, the glass ceiling in the corporate world. But we all know that there are still cultural systems that still pull women back, and also not much economic participation and ownership of the means of production have been taken on by a majority of women. So we still continue to strive for equality in the workplace, in all spheres of our lives as women, not because we actually are being done a favor. We actually are in the majority in a number of our countries and also globally. And therefore, we want to claim the space to make sure that the development of our society is inclusive of both men and women. And I would like to say, in addition, our concerns as women is to make sure that young people particularly participate in shaping our policies, our regulatory environment, because their future is what we build today. And therefore, it is important that they also participate. So when we talk about women in agriculture and agribusiness industries, we're not only talking about women in the middle age, we're also talking about young women who are already participating in this space. As South Africa, this year we celebrate the life and legacy of Mama Charlotte Maanya Maxeke. We do this in honor of what South African women have done in the liberation struggle of our country, but at the same time, the role that women continue to play today and the role that they will play in the future. A majority of us, when look back at the history of women's activism and the women's movement in our country, it dates back even before 1900, when women, particularly in the Free State, were fighting the struggle of carrying on passes, which went on even after 1900. We all know that women were at the forefront to fight for access to land because of it being an economic space where women earn their living and they can actually feed their families. We also know that it was in 1954, prior to the adoption of the Freedom Charter, that women, through the Federation of South African Women, actually had a charter that reflected the type of South Africa that women wanted for themselves. It was also these women who, in the later years, fought against forced removals. We would recall people like Ma Lydia Komape, Mamu Beatrice Beauty Radha Mkhize, and many others that I may not count today. But also, it was South African women from various political parties, religious persuasion, and different class who actually came together in the early 1900s under the banner of the Women's National Coalition, where they drafted the Women's Charter for Effective Equality. And I think it's important in days like this to remember that our constitutional framework today, with the Equality Clause, it was because of the struggles of women of this country. It was also these women who were at the forefront in shaping our legislatures, not just in numbers, but also with what they brought to actually make sure that the policies and legislation that we have are actually inclusive and can take our country forward. All these anniversaries are interconnected, in my view, when we talk about Beijing and the struggles of women globally, because they seek to promote, elevate, and enhance women's central role in ridding our countries and the globe of the scourge of poverty, hunger, and malnutrition. They also aim at putting us on a trajectory envisioned in the Sustainable Development Goals and the National Development Plan of our country, 2020, and I would say the 2063 vision of the Africa we want. This year's Women's Month commemoration happens at the time when South Africa, like many other countries around the world, heeded the call by the Secretary General of the United Nations to begin the process of leveraging the power of food systems to deliver progress on all 17 Sustainable Development Goals and come up with bold actions and solutions to food systems challenges. And if one were to look at what are the challenges that we can identify in our food system as a country, as a continent, but also globally, it still remains the access to land as the means of production. The issue of access to water resources, the issue of credit and finance, issues of markets and market infrastructure, issues of technology and research, issues of mechanization, which will remain a constraint for a number of women in particular to be able to participate effectively in the food systems. The issues of transport and logistics remain one of the challenges that still impact on our food system. I would also say currently, the disruption of the pandemic has actually shown a number of fault lines and weaknesses, but at the same time, resilience in our food systems at national and even at global level. I also want to say one of the issues might not have been directly linked in the debates on food systems and agriculture and agribusiness generally, but it is an important issue that we must embrace and deliberate upon, the issue of climate change. The adverse weather patterns, and those of you in South Africa has had a second winter in the past week, something that we did not think was going to happen. Who would have thought that one province on the eastern side would have actually had rains when on the western side there would have snow? That was KwaZulu-Natal on Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. You had snow and very cold weathers on the western side, but on the eastern side, there was actually rains, which actually show the adverse weather patterns that we're now having globally. We've seen the rain and the flooding in Europe and some cyclone in Americas, which again indicates the changing reality of our climate globally. How then do we strengthen our food systems to cope with these challenges? These are the matters that I'm sure we're all deliberating on. But as we name these challenges, we are globally reeling and gripped by the waves of COVID-19 pandemic, which continue to affect many countries in the world. We think we're off from this wave, another wave emerges. Our resilience, therefore, as a nation and globally, has been tested. And what has emerged is that focusing on transformation of our local and national food systems is key to building and sustaining social, economic, and environmental resilience over time. As a country, we can say we are food secure nationally, but COVID-19 actually showed the weakness in our local food systems. Whereas if those were stronger, we would have been able to cushion all members of our society very well. We tried with our social security networks, where we were able to give food parcel as an immediate relief to those who were affected. We're also able to actually make sure that we ensure that our family farmers, or what we call them in South Africa, our subsistence farmers, were able to remain on the land and continue to produce with the assistance that government gave. Last week, I invited you to this webinar to share with you the outcomes of the process we together embarked upon since June 11, when we launched countrywide food systems dialogue. I hope that the majority of you here formed the more than 3,500 participants in 11 dialogues that we have had thus far. We decided deliberately with the convener that we must have a dialogue with women producers and women involved in agribusiness and in food systems generally, so that we can hear the views and voices of women, not only on the solutions and actions that have been put forward, but also on how, as women, we'll engage with the process of implementing going forward. And I must say that one thing that's always excited me about women is that they don't see one solution to a problem. They always have multiplicity of solutions, and there's always an alternative from solving one problem to the other. And women don't only talk about problems, they actually do and resolve those problems through their actions. It is my same hope that having deliberated on what are the challenges on our food systems, we will find ways on what is it that we need to do to implement and change. We convened this webinar to provide women active in food systems an opportunity to share what they regard as actions required to position women as significant players in ensuring safe and nutritious food for all, as well as build resilience in our food systems. The actions and solutions that will be shared today will be anchored on existing policy instruments and programs on offer, but they will also be used to identify the gaps within government policy and programs to achieving the goals of ending hunger, malnutrition, and poverty. It would also enable us to look at how we can put our economy on a sustainable trajectory through our food systems. I must say that we've already had a pre-summit in Rome where a majority of us globally have been able to participate on what we called baking the cake. So we had all the ingredients of how we can bake the cake. Who knows, we might still be needing some coloring so that our cake, instead of being, a normal flour bake brownie, we can actually have a little bit of stripes that is blue and pink. And I'm sure this is what we'll do today in baking that cake in preparation for eating at the summit in September. But what was nice about the process of baking the cake, in FAO, we were able to also identify who are the partners who are maybe good in mixing the dough, maybe partners who are good in producing the milk that we need for the cake, and those who are good in producing baking powder so that that cake actually is good, and butter that will make sure that it's not too dry. I'm raising this because through the process of building our food systems, we would want to create coalitions and partners with whom we can hold each other's hands. Because if one country's food system is weaker, it means the global food system is weak. So we need to hold each other's hands. And I'm happy, Ambassador, you are here, because I can already see some baking powder and some yeast from where you are seated in Europe, and I'll give you sugar from South Africa so that we can make sure that the cake is nice. On such developments, we also need to look at how we strengthen our global networks so that our food system can actually work in a resilient manner. Last week, we had a webinar as part of the department working with women again, where we looked at our land policy and the new policy on beneficiary selection, which actually mandates that government must give 50% of land to women beneficiaries on land reform program. It is a step in the right direction, and I think we need to build on that. In addition, we also looked at our funding instruments that are available, such as the Comprehensive Agricultural Support Program, Ilima Litsima, Land Development Support, as well as the recently launched blended finance instruments, which bring in our development finance institutions, as well as private banks, partnering with government in supporting producers. But we want to be biased, even on finance, to urge our financial partners to make sure that 50% of their funding of agriculture goes to women producers and women agribusiness entrepreneurs. I just want to share with you that with the Presidential Employment Stimulus Initiative that was launched last year as part of the Economic Reconstruction and Recovery Program, we were able to support about 40,884 women who actually farm the size of a hectare or even less, or rather a soccer field, if I were to share the symbolism of what a hectare actually represents. These women are very important in strengthening household food security, which is very key in building livelihoods and stemming poverty at a local level. Therefore, we do not see them as not an important leg of our food system as we talk about smallholder, commercial, and even agribusiness enterprises. We should not forget that those women who provide food security at a local level, they too require our support. We also have started women in agro-processing and agribusiness because we identified that there is not enough targeted support for those women who are moving at tertiary level of agriculture who play an important role in our food system. So through this program, we want to expand their knowledge of how they can engage in the sector and upscale their entry into the agribusiness sector generally. We're doing this in order to ensure that support mechanisms for women in the agribusiness sector are available. We will be starting with 100 women as a pilot so that we can learn together on how best we can support women in agribusiness industry. And for us, if we're able to support fully and see these 100 women shine, we will then be able to massify. Government has also recognized that we cannot achieve all these commitments that we have made through these dialogues if we do not work meaningfully with our private sector. So public-private partnership will be one of those elements that we will strengthen in making sure that we build resilient food system. I therefore would like to wish you well in this webinar, and we are there to listen and engage with you so that we can find solutions for our country, but also for our world. Thank you very much.
Thank you a million times, Minister, for the keynote address. Highly appreciated. As you were talking, some of the farmers are already posting questions of saying how to join this women in agro-processing and agribusiness. We will get to a time where those questions get to be responded to. Thank you again, Minister, for just setting the scene and informing us where we are in terms of food systems and the developments around women empowerment in the country. Much appreciated, Minister. Thank you very much. We are going to go back and give the chairperson of the Gender Commission a chance, Ms. Tamara Matebula, who had some connectivity problems earlier. Mema Matebula, can I hand over to you again?
Thank you, Program Director. Thank you very much for your kindness. Really, I must apologize for the technical glitches that the system kicked me out as I was starting to talk. Let me cut straight to the chase. It's important that as we celebrate the Women's Month under the theme Generation Equality, Realizing Women's Rights for Equal Future, we need to reflect on a number of achievements, but also on a number of challenges that women face in the strides towards achieving gender equality in South Africa. And I know that it's been evident that strides have really been made to ensure a safer and more balanced South Africa for all. However, it still reveals that prevailing ideologies still remain, that gender inequality, patriarchy, heteronormativity continues to dominate all relevant laws as well as judicial structures that prevent achievement of gender equality as well as women empowerment in South Africa. It is a fact, Program Director, that these ideologies are applied as justification not only towards lack of gender equality, but also for discrimination on the basis of gender in as far as improving and transforming food systems for women empowerment in South Africa. However, we do have laws, we do have legislations in the country, and these legislative frameworks were developed since 1994. And these were actually looking at addressing issues of discrimination, addressing issues of oppression, and replacing quite a number of previous laws, pre-1994 laws, with more than 1,000 legislative frameworks that were beginning to actually address issues of equality, freedoms, and democracy for all in the country. And these laws are basically echoed by quite a number of values that we have, and those values are quite enshrined in the Constitution of the Republic of South Africa. If you look at Chapter 9 as well as Chapter 2 of our Constitution, this is where we have provisions that are specifically aimed at addressing gender inequality, discriminations affecting human dignity, human rights, equality, freedoms, as well as supremacy of the Constitution in the Republic of South Africa. Parliament also has done quite a lot of work in terms of making sure that legislations that are meant to change women's conditions are passed. And these laws and legislations are legislations such as Labor Relations Act 1996, the Basic Conditions of Employment Act of 1998, the Employment Equity Act of 1999, as well as the Skills Development Act of 1999. A key objective in the process of making sure that gender equality and gender transformation in our country is achieved, we require to make sure that there is a complete paradigm shift from what we used to be doing in terms of practice, but also in terms of policy, both in the workplace as well as in our business environment. We have further amended certain acts such as Customary Marriage Act, which also recognizes marriages and addressing inheritance issues. And we have also looked at Land Amendment Acts, and we have also looked at issues of access to land and ownership of land in our country as part of production mechanism for women and for young women in our country. At a regional level and at an international level, we do have, as a country, as a member state, we have made commitments to action and achieve gender equality as well as women economic empowerment. And this has been done through the SADC Declaration on Gender Equality, the Beijing Platform for Action that the Honorable Minister referred to earlier, the CEDAWs, whose focus has been on 12 areas, and these 12 areas include and not limited to women and poverty, women and economic empowerment, women and decision-making, and further attaining minimum standards of government such as ours to end gender discrimination and promote gender equality in the country. Therefore, we work hard in terms of making sure that we achieve these commitments through gender transformation and through what we do in our food security systems in the country, so that there is a direct relationship at a national gender policy levels, but also in making sure that in terms of practice, we are aligned with both our domestic, our regional, as well as our international legislative frameworks and conventions that we are signatories to. As I conclude, I just want to emphasize on the importance of making sure that we partner with some government departments, and I just want to single one government department, Honorable Minister, that if you look at the Department of Women, Youth, and Persons with Disabilities, as well as the Commission for Gender Equality, as a watchdog, ours is to oversee the implementation of the 6 pillars of the National Strategic Plan on Gender-Based Violence and Femicide. And as we talk, we know that women economic empowerment is one of those 6 pillars in the NSP of the gender on gender-based violence as well as femicide. And we want to make sure that as we implement those pillars as a department, we also make sure that we constantly recognize and realize what is expected of us as a department, but also what is expected of us as partners in terms of making sure that all our efforts go into reporting on our work and reporting on our efforts towards achieving this particular pillar, which is around women economic empowerment. And also, I just want to remind all of us that one of the key things that this particular department is looking at is to make sure that we implement what we call gender responsive planning, monitoring and evaluation, as well as audit. And these are some of the efforts that are beginning to make sure that the resources, whether it's financial or otherwise, these resources are mobilized and shared and to eliminate gender disparities that we have seen around us. So therefore, it's imperative to begin to identify opportunities to review and repeal those laws and legislative frameworks that prevent us from achieving gender equality and women economic empowerment as in our NSP on gender-based violence at all levels. We must also expand and develop the use of new technologies just to make sure that we improve and we achieve greater agricultural outcomes. We also need to adopt a transparent and predictable regulatory systems as well as policies to leverage our innovative work, and we must make sure that we remain accountable to the work that we do. The minister did refer to the importance of partnership, and I want to emphasize this last point to say that we must build stronger partners, not only with private sector and public sector, but also with Chapter 9, with Chapter 10, as well as Chapter 13 institutions such as the Gender Commission, the South African Human Rights Commission, to ensure that through the laws and through the legislative frameworks and policies, we have an enabling legislative environment that is beginning to address issues of gender equality and women economic empowerment. I just want to take this opportunity to wish all of you a happy Women's Month, and thank you very much for listening. Thank you very much.
Thank you again, Ms. Mathebula. I'm happy you managed to put through given those glitches. We are very appreciative of the context that you've given around issues of gender and equality in the country, down even to the SADC region, and what is expected as we map our processes and policy direction in terms of women empowerment in the country. Thank you very much for that context. It is appreciated. We are now, I'm seeing there are some of the participants that they are raising hands. There's going to be a time in our program where we will be entertaining inputs and questions. So I am requesting you just to bear with us for now. You will get that opportunity later in the program. I am right now going to take this opportunity to invite Her Excellency, the EU Ambassador, Ambassador Rina Kionka, to also come on board and take us through the EU commitment in terms of advancing the role of women in food systems. Her Excellency, Ambassador Kionka, over to you, Madam.
Good morning. Thank you, Program Director. Good morning to all the participants, Honorable Minister, fellow speakers. In the interest of time, all protocol observed. I'm absolutely delighted that you invited me to take part in this webinar, especially since the topic is directly related to two very important political priorities for the EU. First, on gender equality, and also on the farm to fork vision for agricultural development. As a point of departure, I would make three observations. Firstly, I would ask us all to spare a thought this morning for our sisters and daughters in Afghanistan, who after the events of the weekend are not certain they can continue to go to work, go to school, to study. My second observation comes more to the point of our webinar. South Africa and the EU are like-minded on the issues of gender equality and social inclusion. And these are central to the work that we both do, both within the EU as well as outside the Union through our Gender Action Plan 2021-25. In South Africa, the EU delegation, along with our member states in a broader Team Europe approach, continues to work on this critical cross-cutting issue. Already, the EU funds a gender program with the Department of Women, Youth, and Persons with Disabilities. It also supports the South African government's efforts to allocate resources to gender empowerment through gender budgeting and to improve gender mainstreaming across government departments. And I'm confident that it will also address women in agriculture and benefit the Department of Agriculture, Land Reform, and Rural Development. Because after all, as the minister has pointed out on several points in her intervention, women are central to the delivery of safe and nutritious food. My third observation, It goes without saying that overcoming hunger is central to our shared vision of the world where nobody is left behind. The EU's farm to fork strategy is our vision for agriculture, and it's really at the heart of our efforts to make food systems fair, healthy, and environmentally friendly. It also links closely with the post-COVID green recovery that's based on sustainability. Farmers, agribusiness, retailers, and consumers are all key players in food and nutrition security, in health, environmental sustainability, rural livelihoods, and development. And let me point out that, again, as the minister pointed out, our food systems are interconnected, in fact. South Africa is the most successful exporter of agri-food products to the EU, with a positive trade balance of 6.6 billion rand. In 2020, the growth in South African agricultural exports to the EU was almost double that of the rest of the world. And that means business for women farmers. Minister, we chatted just before the webinar started, and let me just place on the record that your EU counterpart, Commissioner Wojciechowski, is very eager to have an exchange with you on these topics. Looking ahead, some 9 out of 10 European consumers, according to polls, are ready to pay a fair price for healthy and tasty foods. And given that situation, your products, from citrus to rooibos to wine, are very well positioned for the European market. And I note, therefore, that how important it is to make the most of our strong trade relationship. But staying on the theme of working very closely together, I'm delighted also that South Africa is one of the few partner countries with whom the EU has committed to work to prepare next month's UN Food System Summit. And Minister, in this regard, the EU, together with the FAO, has written to your office. We acknowledge with gratefulness the work that you, Minister, have facilitated through the National Food Systems Dialogue, and we look forward to President Ramaphosa's presentation at the summit. Women, no doubt, will figure prominently, because after all, statistics show that women, who control only about 5% of South Africa's land currently, provide 80% of the agricultural labor. And about 70% of smallholders in South Africa are women. Separately, the Center of Excellence on Food Security at the University of Western Cape, I would add with EU funding, has identified critical challenges for South Africa, and the minister has also pointed to some of those. They include the double burden of under and overnutrition, gaps between sophisticated food policy and food security, understanding the constraints toward a more sustainable agricultural way of going forward, and how concentrations of food value chains shape food systems outcomes. These issues are all relevant to women's empowerment and a gender equal society. We support the recent proposal of the Center of Excellence to discuss these results with your department. We see the transformation of food systems as a major opportunity to accelerate our contribution to the SDGs. Our commitment to women in agriculture is already being translated into the EU's current financial cooperation with South Africa, and I would bring a few examples. First one I would mention, the EU-funded EDSE program is working with the Department of Agriculture, Land Reform, and Rural Development on supporting and strengthening the small business ecosystem. The collaboration is also working to identify competitive strategic value chains for agribusiness SMMEs, so as to ensure their increased participation in targeted value chains as identified in the Agriculture and Agro-Processing Master Plan. Second example, small businesses, including women-owned enterprises, experience a number of challenges in seeking access to the markets. One of these is compliance to food safety requirements. And so we're working to improve SMME's compliance with food safety and quality requirements in value chains, specifically that have a high potential for growth and job creation. Third, we also provide funding to She Trades ZA, which supports women-owned enterprises, that's meaning farmers or agro-processors, to enter markets. And in this respect, the EU delegation was delighted to participate last week in the program's efforts to present South African women-owned businesses to the Organization for Women in International Trade. Another example. Next week, I have the great pleasure to visit Clanwilliam in the Western Cape to promote the Rooibos geographical indication, which we're very happy about. I know the important role also of women in this value chain specific to South Africa. And maybe one more example, if you'll indulge me. Another important program of ours supports the transformation of the wines and spirits sector, and in particular targets women entrepreneurs and previously disadvantaged farmers. So these are just a few examples to illustrate the EU's core principle that women and girls are key agents of development, transformation, and change. The EU is currently starting a new cycle of projects, and it has committed to the idea that gender equality will be an explicit objective for at least 80% of the projects. So thank you once more for giving the opportunity to me to participate in this very important webinar in a well-timed month. I'm delighted to join this amazing lineup of speakers. And Honorable Minister, we've only met by video, so I look very much forward to exchanging with you in real life once that becomes possible, because as you see, the EU is very active under your portfolio. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Her Excellency Ambassador Kionka, for that context of your collaboration with issues of women empowerment across the country. You even go down to our farmers at a farm level, which is very much appreciated. Thank you very much. And even the commitments that you've made, that through some of your agencies like EDSE, you would still be contributing towards the empowerment and capacity development of our farmers in agribusiness in the country. Thank you very much for that commitment, much appreciated. We will now be moving to the core of this webinar. I will be inviting the convener for food systems, Ms. Vangile Titi, to take us through the summary or the outcomes of the proposed pathways for food systems for South Africa. That will be the presentation that will trigger the discussion that will get us to discuss those core issues that made us to convene here. Metiti, over to you.
Thank you, Lebu, and good morning. Can the administrator help me to share? My screen says host disabled participants screen sharing.
Noted.
Fantastic. Am I sharing now?
Not yet.
Have I been given the sharing rights? I can see my screen. My apologies. Lebo, can you assist? Can you see me?
We can see you, but not your screen, Metiti. Should the administrator share the presentation for you?
Okay, let's see. Nothing as yet.
Nothing as yet, Metiti.
Okay, please, administrator, share my screen.
You'd need to send the PowerPoint presentation for me to share that presentation for you, but you should be able to share it.
Yeah, I should be, but it looks like, okay, let me go back. What does it say? It worked perfectly well when I tried it, but okay, I have my document. Let me go back. My apologies.
No problem.
I share the screen. Okay. I skipped one.
Yes, now we can see it.
You can see me now?
We can.
Fantastic. I had skipped. Okay, good morning. My apologies for the slight glitch. Let me acknowledge first our minister and express my gratitude to her for hosting this dialogue, which I regard as a wrap-up of all the dialogues that we've had around the country for the past, this is the third month of dialoguing that we've undertaken. And secondly, let me acknowledge Her Excellency Ambassador Rina Kionka. And I was very excited to hear about the work that the EU is doing in South Africa. And just to add that we've been in conversation with the Center of Excellence in Food Security, and that will be meeting tomorrow afternoon to share views. My name is Vangile Titimsumza, and I'm the convener of the National Dialogues. Let me also acknowledge Ms. Tamara Matebula. We live in South Africa, but it is always a pleasure to hear in detail the work that is being done in our country around women and their emancipation. My presentation really today is focusing on the actions and levers of change that have come out of the 11 dialogues, where over 350 people on the platform participated from all kinds of backgrounds. My understanding is that outside of those 350, we had also other people who were live streaming, and that was quite an exciting period for us to be able to engage on such an important subject in the country. My presentation also is meant to trigger a conversation with women around priorities that we need to advance on the pathways, keeping in mind the idea that the minister has already referred to of leveraging public-private partnership, the principles of inclusivity, the centrality of women and youth in the transformation of food systems, as well as the notion of leaving no one behind when we talk about food systems. The first slide is an introduction. The first slide really gives us an introduction of, yes. My apologies, I have a problem with my computer here. I'm not sure what. Okay, my first slide is an introduction that reflects on the fact that our government has recognized the weaknesses in the current food systems to eliminate poverty, hunger, and malnutrition, as well as the reduction of inequalities and growing an inclusive economy by 2030. There's also an agreement that has been reached in all our dialogues about the need to transform our national food system, improve health and nutrition, livelihoods, resilience, the well-being of women, children, and the regeneration of our natural ecosystems, not forgetting the issue of climate change that the minister just mentioned. We looked at what came out of the dialogues in terms of the components of our pathways. The first one is that there's a need to address the key challenges to advancing the SDGs and NDP agenda. As limited technical and financial resources, the weak coordination among various initiatives to leverage synergies, inefficient cross-sectoral collaboration, and poor and timely data collection, management, and dissemination to stakeholders. The recognition of the power of collective action, including partnerships and mutually reinforcing interventions. And I think this morning, as we listened to the minister as well as to Ambassador Kionka, that item came to the fore. Drawing on science and traditional knowledge and sharing policy choices and practices towards sustainable food systems. And lastly, voluntary commitments from stakeholders like the women on the platform today to support the transformation of food systems to realize the vision of 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development. The actions that we've captured in this presentation, based on stakeholders' feedback in the national and provincial dialogues, seek to mitigate the shortcomings, and you may call them challenges, that have arisen by firstly identifying levers of change that will enable behavior change, partnership building, transparency and accountability as prerequisites for effective implementation. And secondly, aligning proposals with existing policies and programs as the National Development Plan, the Agriculture Agro-Processing Plan, and the Food Security and Nutrition Plan. Also recognizing that the NDP and SDGs 2030 are strategic instruments and a compass to direct, monitor, evaluate, measure, and certify progress to structurally transform food systems in South Africa. That government spheres, business and communities must integrate and streamline policies and legislation based on the NDPs, IDPs, etc. We then came up with a number of actions that need to be undertaken. And let me add that those actions came from the 11+ dialogues that took place, and that when I looked through the register of people who had participated, we actually found that more than 50% of women participated in all the platforms, the 11 platforms that we keep talking about. So the first action item is the support to local production for local consumption. And under that, we looked at the smallholder producers, particularly women and youth, who should be comprehensively supported to ensure the availability of food at community level. This will entail improving local value chains with a resultant improvement in local economies, as money would circulate in the community and less spent on commuting to buy food from towns. The support provided to smallholder producers should be comprehensive, as allocation of farms or other relevant infrastructure without comprehensive support packages is detrimental. The other item that came up was that of food safety, and that food safety standards should be improved throughout the value chain, starting with training of local producers and communities to ensure that good quality food reaches the communities, including also the provision of clean water and sanitation. And let me add just now that we heard also from Ambassador Kionka about a collaboration between South Africa and EU on exports. So if we are to export to the EU, we need to pay strict attention to food safety standards. Not just for that, but even for our own well-being. Also, the issue of tracking and traceability came up as a system that should be built into our food system to enable anyone to be able to trace back whatever food, starting from farm to fork. Next is the reintroduction of agriculture and other food production topics in South Africa in the school curriculum. Establishing the education curriculum of food security and nutrition, not only at primary school as we currently do, but from prenatal through to post-school education to produce a balanced person. And I think women, this issue will reverberate a lot with them. The next one is the issue around promoting breastfeeding. There was a lot of discussion in our webinars around the promotion of breastfeeding, and also the history of either women being discouraged to breastfeed, or women feeling that breastfeeding affected their bodies negatively, but we are at a point where we are understanding the benefits of breastfeeding for both mother and child to avoid the problems of stunting of child and adult obesity and of wasting. And I think in the dialogues, in the presentations that we've had, these issues have been well articulated and covered. The next item is that on education, training, research, and extension. Of course, we all understand, and I know that wherever we are, we talk about the development of capacity to women and two other players in the agriculture space. And in this item, looking at the agriculture and agro processing space, that capacity to treat new micro, smallholder and household producers as fully commercial enterprises with the assistance from education, training and extension institutions and other private sector investors. In one of the ministers' webinars, I think it was on education, on the youth, there was a presentation there of the collaboration of South Africa, of the department with Japan. And I think that collaboration fully, in part, addresses some of the issue that is raised under this item. The next action is that of elevating women and youth in the food system agenda. As I started, I said we have to recognize the centrality of women in the transformation of food systems. And this item addresses exactly that, because we know that food security, including nutrition and health, is in the hands of women. And therefore elevating their participation in the food systems agenda is critical. The next item was the promotion of indigenous knowledge systems. This is an item that in each and every province that we went was highlighted, because the feeling across the country is that it is not given the priority that it deserves, and that it is also key to the transformation of food systems if we have to achieve the objectives that we've been talking about, that of food security, of nutrition, of health, and so on. And the actions were the introduction of consumer education about food preservation, and to prevent waste, food waste and loss, and also the production of indigenous crops at the household level. Researching and developing recipes that cover indigenous crops, training, educating, research, promotion, and dissemination information about indigenous food systems and their nutritional benefits to contribute to the spread of knowledge and greater use and benefit within communities. I must also add that the youth dialogue quite impressed me because there were young people in that dialogue who were already doing something around indigenous crops, promoting them and turning them into business enterprises. Promotion of aquaculture and fish production as protein alternatives. The idea here is that these need to be recognized for the significant contribution that they make to food security, to address the present and future challenges of smallholder producers. Revision of the South African food basket was also raised within the context of saying, if you look at South Africa's food basket, you look at the basic staples, maybe umngqusho, meal, rice, and oils. But if we talk about nutritious food and healthier food, that is not reflected in our food basket. And therefore, the recommendation is that we want to go the route of healthy and nutritious food for all. We need a revision of our food basket. The next item is about building networks of resilience to vulnerabilities, shocks, and stresses. Everywhere we went, people were saying, build social infrastructure, relationships, and networks that are responsive to community crises, and take note of the work that was done by both civil society, by the way, and government in the pandemic to channel resources to smallholder and agricultural households in the rural areas and vulnerable communities, in the townships, inner cities, and informal settlements, as well as upscaling social protection mechanisms that are in place, because these have been seen to have contributed to the survival of communities in crisis. Improving food systems governance by defining a clear mandate for food systems at national, provincial, and local government levels, and maybe just to reflect on where this comes from. It comes from the idea that local government has a role to play in transforming food systems, and therefore that has to be built into the governance structures, and it is part of the item around building resilience in communities. Balancing interest in exports and local production with basic food security, whilst positioning an affordable, nutritious food basket to strengthen food system towards resilience. Supporting ecosystems resilience by ensuring continued productivity of natural ecosystems through improved land and water use planning and environmental governance. Promotes food security, particularly to low-income communities that depend on natural resources for their subsistence and livelihoods. We had an item about promoting agritourism markets that should be used as a leverage to transform food system sustainability and market access, because agritourism presents opportunities for diverse and dynamic markets and creates sustainable jobs for women. I've been visited some farms that are producing whatever citrus and other things, and at the same time you find that the women take time off to also produce traditional baskets, mats, and all kinds of beautiful things. For me, that showed the potential of agritourism in creating sustainable jobs in the producing areas. Invest in the informal sector. The discussion around this was that the informal sector in South Africa is very dynamic, but it is not recognized. And therefore, we need to observe the system of informal trade and how it operates, equip traders with necessary resources to succeed, and empower and develop the informal sector to build into the entire industry and value chains. promoting healthier lifestyles through public awareness campaigns to educate consumers on quantity and quality of food to serve and their nutritional value. There was also an idea that we need to restrict domestic and imported food that is less nutritious and harmful, and conduct national dietary surveys through academic institutions, monitor and enforce food security and nutrition interventions. Establish food and agricultural hubs near rural or peri-urban markets to absorb the produce of households. Smallholder and micro farmers and agribusinesses and agro-processors from smart villages to have inclusive, diverse, dynamic, and prosperous markets. And I think that also links up to the first item that we spoke about, the promotion of local production for local consumption. So create those hubs to bring production and processing of food closer to communities. Maintaining effective biosecurity systems by both government, businesses, and communities across the entire food systems, with the capability for early recognition of pests and diseases, continuous diagnostic and surveillance, control and neutralize to ensure credibility and success. And reflecting back to Minister's dialogue, last week we had Dr. Maja on the platform, and I loved the way she simplified the idea of biosecurity. And I hope people on this platform were also on the platform last week, because I think I was telling my children that Dr. Maja made an incredible presentation linking it to what people know in terms of the protocols of COVID-19 in the country. Extending and maintaining biological resources diversity to include a wide range of indigenous breeds and the forgotten and neglected crops to broaden the food basket and mitigate food security risks through diversification, including honeybees. Establishing community land and water systems for good governance, and promoting the establishment of aggregators to ensure sufficient throughput of products and services from schools, community, household, and smallholder producers on a sustainable basis. The next part is about the levers of change. What is it that needs to be done in order to make sure that all the actions that we have outlined happen, supported, and that they are impactful? The first thing that people talked about was the effective governance and leadership system, saying that we need a central coordination structure to coordinate and monitor all food systems to avoid duplication of programs in fighting hunger, poverty, malnutrition, unemployment, and economic growth. The idea that we need to finalize the farmer database so that we know, where are these smallholder and household farmers, and what are they doing? Research and innovation, Minister mentioned the pre-summit, and in most instances, the research and innovation and the promotion of the use of 4IR were up there in the conversations that were mentioned. Maybe just to say, under the promotion of the use of 4IR, that the promotion of this will assist municipalities by facilitating the provision of digital data about food demand, prices, and specific locations in rural areas, as well as supply chain efficiencies to distribute food among users, provide education also about food waste. The Competition Act, drive of efficiency and competitiveness in the food system is necessary to unlock the billions worth of exports and jobs. Government and business procurement. I'm always listening to something or talking to someone about food systems and procurement by both government and business that directed towards micro, smallholder and household farmers and agro-processing enterprises is key. And I think that was also mentioned last week in the minister's webinar. Stakeholder collaboration, we've talked about that, and that is why the theme is about public-private partnerships. We know that doing it alone is not going to cut it, and therefore we need to bring all the resources that we can harness and master into the process of changing the food systems. Financing, Minister referred to the offerings that the department has, and in those offerings, there's already collaboration with banks and other institutions. One of the things that actually came out of our interactions with the senior officials in government that was very helpful was, okay, we have all these actions and levers of change. The one thing that is key is how do you institutionalize all these game-changing solutions? So having defined the key changes that are needed to transform South Africa's food systems, the concerns are how do you ensure that proposals for food systems transformation are aligned to existing strategies and initiatives? How do we move from proposals to action, particularly given multiple existing programs with coordination and limited resources? And policies and programs such as the Agricultural and Agro-Processing Master Plan, CASP, ILIMA, the National Food Security and Nutrition Policy and Plan, the Blended Finance, the National Policy on Comprehensive Producer Development Support, all suggest that it is possible to anchor the implementation of the identified solutions on the existing policies and programs. And of course, where gaps are identified, we make adjustments. On that note, I would like to thank you for your attention and apologize for the glitches at the beginning. Thank you so much.
Thank you, and thank you again, Ms. Titi, for that presentation on pathways for proposed food systems pathways for the country, which is an outcome of the dialogues that the minister alluded to in her speech. I will be opening for a discussion, a few minutes for discussion based on that presentation. But as we get into that discussion, I want to challenge all the women on this call to say, as you make your contribution, you should respond to these two questions. Are these priorities or pathways that have been presented relevant to you as women in the agriculture sector? And if not, the theme of this webinar, when we shared it, when we open, is actions required to position women as significant players in ensuring safe and nutritious food for all. What is it? What are the actions that you would, if these are not all inclusive, what is your contribution? I am opening for discussions. I will see by the show of hand to the from the participants on the call based on this presentation on food systems.
And everything else.
And everything else. Thank you, Ms. Titi. I will see by the show of hand. I am not seeing any hands up unless if I'm missing someone in the list of the participants. Or it means
we have a hand moderator from Dr. Claudia, and I've allowed Dr. Claudia to speak.
Thank you. Dr. Claudia, over to you, madam. Dr. Claudia? Claudia is not still not available. There are questions also that have been coming. The other, oh, there he is. He's writing on the chat group. I think there's a challenge. Any other hand, administrator, you would make an opening for them to be able to speak?
I've allowed Penina. Penina can speak.
Thank you. Thank you. My question, or I don't know whether it's a question or it's a request, is that we want to, as young women, we want to be involved, but the problem is, can you hear me?
Yeah, I think we are good. Yeah, I think we are good.
Can I speak? Okay.
Continue, Penina.
Yes. We as women, especially young women, we want to be involved in agriculture, but the problem is land and access to finance because of all the action that we spoke about, or the previous lady spoke about, can only be implemented if we have land and access to finance. For example, I want to be involved in agriculture. I'm using a small stand to implement or to plant. I don't have land. So can the Minister of Agriculture help us with the issue of land? Because we need land. How can we be part of a program when we don't have land? Last year, there were posts that were advertised about leasing of land, but we never got any response. We applied, we were happy, but we never received any response. So we are concerned about land. How can we solve the issue of land? And my second request is the email of the minister. We want to speak with the minister directly. We want to, if ever, let me say, for example, we have problems, we want to direct those problems to the minister. I think that will be all for now.
Thank you, Penina. Your questions will be responded to. The next participant on call for input.
It is CD. I've allowed CD to speak. Lebo.
Good morning, all. My question was, is there a way of incorporating greenhouses for all the peri-rural areas? Because with greenhouses, it helps curb the problems of like the environment. Sorry?
Administrator, there's a disturbance from your end. Could you continue?
Yes, it helps curb the problem of environment, and also it doesn't limit to your planting to seasons. So I was wondering if there is a possibility of the greenhouse way. It really does help, even with land. It won't need a lot of land, and you can do much more, even with water, because a lot of these areas have problems with water, you see. So even if you get land, what happens with water? Yes, that's what I'm saying.
Thank you, Tsidi. Your question is noted. It will be responded to.
Thank you.
I am going to, for the interest of time, the administrator, just give all the people whose hands are up and access to, in their order, to respond to questions, to pose their questions rather. I will stop at least 6 people so that we give the panelists the chance to respond.
Okay, Madam Moderator, I think we can allow the next person is Tabitha to come in, and then we can allow Doreen, then perhaps you then allow them to, or the panelists to respond.
Tabitha followed by Doreen.
Thank you very much and good morning to all the participants. My name is Tabitha Mukoni. I actually have a proposal. It is not a question. My proposal is that I think the financial leverage that are within the department should actually be utilized to promote these good policies that we are having. If one takes an interest in policies that are developed by government, they are all beautiful, but I do not know exactly what is the problem of the implementation. So I think whatever is available within government should be utilized to promote these very initiatives and proposals that are being presented here. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your input, Tabitha.
The next one is Tsiko. Tsiko, you can go ahead.
Am I audible?
Yes, you are.
Good afternoon to everyone, and thank you to the panelists, and especially the minister and the moderator for hosting us. I am a owner of a farm, and my interest, without diverting from what the minister has presented, is to request that what is the process to be followed by women who already have the land and would like to receive further assistance, maybe in the form of access to markets, and also in the form of identification on what are the areas of growth for women in agriculture where one could participate, where one does already have the farm, and some resources which could be augmented by the resources from the agricultural department. So I'm looking for assistance in that aspect. And then also, I listened, but I got in late onto the program. I'm looking at programs that are specifically focused on women in farming, mentoring women in farming, both in rural areas, and also ensuring that those of us that start we are given an opportunity to thrive, and also ensure that we get assistance in terms of the blockages from a number of areas in relating to getting our products to market. Thank you.
Thank you. I will be taking two. Then from there, I give to Ms. Titi and those that were posed to the minister. I invite the honorable minister to respond to those. Let me take only two for now, Mr. Administrator.
Okay, I'm allowing Doreen. Doreen, you can speak.
Thank you for the opportunity to contribute. My name is Doreen Munyulwa, and I work for a non-governmental organization that is looking at training, research, and innovation and use of technologies. My observation from our work is that existing extension services are particularly focusing on specific crops or interventions, yet in some cases there is need for need-driven or responding to farmer needs. And we realize that mostly women farmers suffer from lack of support in terms of technical support in their day-to-day activities in farming. So my request is there any opportunity for interventions that look at facilitating mentoring, training, and nurturing of women, and where organizations such as ourselves, who are non-governmental or non-profit making, could actually play a role in mentoring these women farmers? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Doreen. Your question is noted. So that the panelists do get a chance to respond, I will take the second round. Can I request Ms. Titi to come in, and then after her, I will invite the Honorable Minister.
Thank you, Lebu. Maybe I should, and thank you everyone on the platform for your questions. Maybe I should start by saying that the whole idea around the work that the minister said we must do, and the presentations that we are making, is to make sure that nobody is left behind. So the issues that have been raised on this platform, they are all about practicalities, the actions that need to be taken to ensure that we arrive at the destination of transformed food systems by 2030. So my only comment will be that we are at this juncture where we have said we have the actions, we have the levers of change, and people are saying we have programs, we can't access those programs. So the actions that follow is to make sure that the programs that we have established in the departments are visible. And I think that there was an attempt to do that last week in the minister's webinar, but also that we take concrete actions to link people to programs, especially with questions around how, land. I've been applying for land forever. I've been applying for finance forever. So the actions must be, as we move forward with transforming the food systems, to make sure that people access the offerings that the government has. Thank you, Lebu. Over to you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Titi, for that response. Can I request the Honorable Minister to, for those specific questions that were directed to Minister. Before me, as Minister prepares herself, can you please mute Doreen, Administrator? Minister, I hand over to you.
No, thank you very much. The question that was actually raised related to access to land, and I'm not sure, Lebu, whether Gloria is in the meeting today. If not, maybe you can share on the platform her email so that can engage the panel, or rather the member that has raised that question. Maybe just to say, with regards to the 700,000 hectares of land, again, we'll follow up with the Directorate on Land Reform, why people were not informed. But the land in question, a lot of it really had communities that were using it. And therefore, in terms of affirming the users, it was not possible to bring in other people when the communities concerned were already active and utilizing that land for productive purposes. But where land was not encumbered, that land has actually been redistributed to those who were successful. We know that there were many requests on that part, but not everybody might have been attended to. But there are other programs of the department in terms of proactive land acquisition, where we assist people with land access in terms of government programs. And that's why I think, Lebu, it would be important to share both the email of Mr. Ndobe, Terry Ndobe, as well as Gloria, who deal with the issues of land redistribution and land reform. With regards to the email, I think you can put the email minister@dalrad, but sometimes it's not actually useful. I'm not saying we shouldn't, but some of the issues can really be attended to by our offices in the district as well as in the province. The issue about supporting women with mentoring, Lebu can share her email, because that's the program that she is one of those people that were driving, as we're saying that we want to pilot with 100 women and see what we can do to be able to find better ways of supporting women in agribusiness in particular. And that would relate to the lady who said, I have land, but I need mentoring. That would fall in that category. Our MECs of agriculture in the various provinces also have specific programs to support women, but also farmers in general. And I'm sure we can share the contacts of the heads of department at a provincial level to actually be able to assist those of you in the various provinces who would like a specific support in terms of your production. Issues of extension services. One of the things that we've actually done, it's more to recruit more extension officers, as you heard in January, actually in February through the budget, where Minister Mboweni announced that in the 3 years, we'll be able to appoint 10,000 extension officers to add on the pool that we have, but also appreciating that some of the extension officers are actually retiring. One of the things we've also done in improving the capacity of our extension officers is to really train people, not only technical in terms of advice, but also how they can engage and interact with the market on a program that is known as a Smallholder Empowerment Program, SHEP in short. I think I have addressed the questions that have been raised to me specifically. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Minister. Those email addresses of the officials responsible for most of the issues that were raised, that one of Gloria for land reform, it will be posted on the chat, mine as well around issues of training and mentorship. It will be posted. We'll also post the email address of our colleague that is heading Extension and Advisory Service. I'm also going to, those that are posting their questions on the chat group, it becomes much more easier to assist if you indicate which province you are from, because we will immediately also link you with our colleagues in specific provinces, like the one of Doreen of saying, I'm available, I want to partner with government in extending your provision of technology transfer and extension and advisory service, which will be a partnership that we will warm up to, but we need to know in which province so that we can link you accordingly. Thank you very much, Minister. We will post those relevant officials to respond to those specific questions. I am taking the last round before we continue with our program. In the interest of time, facilitator, when you open for those that have raised their hands, I will not come back and list their names again. So those that hands are up, I'm going to end with them. I'm no longer going to take extra hands so that we continue with other speakers in the program. Thank you. I can see there are already 9 whose hands are up. Can we take them in that order, open them in that order, Administrator?
Yes, I will, Moderator, but perhaps you just allow each one 1 minute, otherwise we will not finish. I've just allowed Crop Lab, please go ahead.
Thank you very much. My name is Mahau Pego, and thank you for this program. My first comment is just to just address something to the Honorable Minister. I think one of the biggest problems that we have as women in agriculture is that there is no ecosystem. The fact that, you have to give this guy's email and that person's email is a very unrealistic way of working. We need a one-stop center where there is information that we can access at any time. And I think this is really important and practical. We shouldn't have to be chasing people up on their emails. That's my first comment on it. The second one is around digital agriculture. This is critical for women, especially if we are unable to access land. But at least in our tunnels, we are able to at least introduce digital systems that can help us to increase our yields, to improve productivity, etc. So we always seem to be talking about what is happening in land, but we're not really talking about a new innovation and emerging technologies, which are very, very critical. Artificial intelligence, cooling systems so that we can cool our vegetables before they go off to the market, preventing non-wastage, canning technologies. And Minister, just a campaign that just says buy from women, whichever month is chosen each year, so that we can highlight the work that women farmers do in this country. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll move on to F.R. Munyai. Please be very brief, 1 minute each, 1 minute each, please. F. Munyai. Okay. F. Munyai, please go ahead.
Good morning. Do you hear me?
Yes, we can. Please go ahead.
Okay. Thank you. Mine is not from the department. It's not from the women in agriculture. It's just a comment, which I thought I withdraw my hand, because now you identify my hand. I think I can just say it to Ms. Titi. Thank you, Ms. Titi, for your comprehensive presentation. And from the department side, I'm happy to identify that one of the action towards food systems and transformation is alignment of this system of proposals with existing policies, which are NDP, AMP, and food security as an important issue from where we're sitting as a department. So my suggestion also, when I look at the lever of change, you also mentioned that as a department, what I'm saying now as a comment, that as a department, we should also lead in effective governance and leadership systems through participating in the central coordination structure, which is to be formed to avoid that duplication of programs in fighting hunger, poverty, and economic growth. So in that summary, I think I just highlighted that this is what we're supposed to be doing to leverage these food systems to continue unhindered. So it's just a comment from inside the department. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The previous two were mainly comments. The remaining ones?
I'm allowing Brenda to come in. Please, Brenda.
Good.
We can't hear Brenda. I suppose we can move on. Retabile.
Yes, good morning. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Oh, okay, my name is Retabile. I'm in Valcom and
no, hello.
Hello. Yes, my name is Retabile. I'm in Valcom. Hello.
Please go ahead. Go ahead, Retabile.
Oh, okay. So my company is Golden Goose. We are actually doing food and beverage from Sogam. However, the challenge of the land, we are leasing somebody's land. And even where we are processing, we are leasing the factory from the mine. So our challenge is that one in terms of the food safety. When you see the agro processing, many farmers are having a struggle in terms of agro processing, and they are running away from it because of the constraints of the food safety standards, which are very expensive. And with a lack of support from the government, it becomes a very big barrier. And talking from experience, I'm stuck for the past 4 years with only supplying only in Valcom, while my capacity, I can supply the whole South Africa and even in African markets. But the barrier of the food safety standards, the audits, we can be able to get a certification because the building is not ours and we don't have any control of it because the audits, in terms of getting the accreditation, you have to get the building has to be according to that standard. So if the owner of the building is not willing to fix all the problems, then we will forever be in this situation. So can we get assisted? Because I believe in my situation, the mining industry have actually used my ideas to empower other people, because I've been in their premises for the past 10 years, and they are giving they are giving the work to the people who are producing the same product as mine, but they can't give me the work because they say I'm not compliant. And the barrier to my compliance is their fault because their building is theirs. The product is compliant by SABS, the staff is compliant, but the building is non-compliant and we can't get accreditation. So how can we be assistant in where we find ourselves not having our own buildings and premises to work, and the owners are sabotaging us in terms of getting the market and using our own ideas to empower their own friends. Thank you.
Retabile, thank you very much. I'm going to request that you also, I've dropped my email address there. Send just a summary of that to that email. We will link you up with relevant colleagues that will assist you. I'm going to ask Brenda, who had connectivity, to come in quickly.
Thank you so much.
Brenda, unmute yourself, please.
Good morning. Thank you. And thanks for the opportunity to the Honorable Minister, the organizers, and everyone who's attending. I've been farming for over 10 years. And the challenge that I have been experiencing as someone who had took pains to procure land in terms of buying land privately has been getting any form of assistance from government. I don't think there's much attention paid to individuals that have took initiative and pains and put themselves in the line where they have become like the self-starters. It seems like the only targeted group that the focus is on is people who are on government or state-owned land. So can you kindly clarify this aspect for me? Because over these 10 years, I don't think there's any door that I have not knocked on relating to assistance when it comes to funding. Because the first question that one gets is that is it state-owned? The minute you say no, it's like, no, we are unable to proceed with your request. Thank you.
Thank you, Brenda. The next one. Administrator, who have you?
The next one is Babalawa.
Thank you so much, Administrator. Greetings to the Minister and Lebu and everybody, all protocol observed. My name is Baba Alwa. I reside in the Western Cape in the Overberg area in a little town called Grabouw. My situation is to really ask the department to assist me to assist the small farmers in the area, because what we have done ours backwards, where we accessed a market, which is high-end market in the valley called Elgin Railway Market. But the problem that we face is that tourists, for the obvious reasons of COVID, are not coming. So now we are at the back foot and we are facing a crisis where our pricing is obviously not good for locals. So now we want to refocus our market to the local women that are able to go to the market and buy vegetables and fruit, because what we have is a great access to market for our small subsistence farmers in the area. But now we have been having a problem of coordinating them, because all we said to the department, please give us your database of your farmers that you've given money to, so that they can come to our stand to sell their vegetables, to create a similar concept like what you have in the big markets, like what you get at the Cape Town fruit market. So we want to create something like that, answering to Mrs. Titi's presentation of the small access to small medium enterprises amongst farmers. And the whole idea is to replicate this to all the small towns in the country. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'm only going to take 2 questions. The rest, we plead with you that you post them in the chat group. There's a team of people that are going through that chat group to take email addresses that needs presentations and note those questions. We will respond to them. We commit to that. Mr. Administrator, I am just going to take 2 questions and let those questions be responded to, and we continue with the program.
Okay, thank you so much. We have Mems Ramaila and Phyllis Kumalo. Those will be the last ones. Mems, you can speak. Mems, go ahead. Okay, let's move on to Phyllis Kumalo. Phyllis, you can unmute. It looks like they are failing to come on board, so maybe we go ahead, moderator.
Thank you very much, Administrator. Of the questions that were posed, two were mainly inputs and suggestions around a one-stop center for all the inquiries and services that are needed to people. The other one was also an input to Ms. Titi's presentation. Two main questions was from Brenda, who owns a private land, and a Babalwa who wants to help women in Grabo area. The system that Minister presented here of responding to questions is specific senior officials in the department who are responsible for those services being contacted. And there's a team of people. If you go to the chat group, you will see email addresses of those colleagues are being posted. I would, however, respect the minister and hand over if she wants to close up this session of questions before I continue with the program.
No, thank you very much, Lebu. Just to respond to an issue that was raised by Her Excellency Dr. Mohau Pheko, just to say that there is a normal call center in the department that would answer to questions. We also have got the website of the department where people can actually get to know what the department does and be able to engage with us. However, we respect the advice that she's giving on how best we can improve, maybe by re-looking at our website and see whether we can have, you know, a one-call or rather one-stop center where everybody can address their concerns to. So we have taken note of the suggestions, but to give the email was really not the negation of the normal inquiry system that is there for communities. The other issue raised by one participant was how best we can profile the things that we are doing in the department by improving our communication so that it's not like, you know, not known by a number of people what the department nationally and provincially, because in the provinces, I've said earlier, we do have provincial departments of agriculture who render a lot of services that support farmers. But maybe in our intergovernmental system, it's also to look at how best the profiling of the work of those provincial departments can be done so that producers and agribusiness enterprises can be able to engage with them, you know, appropriately. The other matter was those who have got their own land, how they can, or whether they are assisted by government, given the experience that Brenda has actually reflected on. Actually, our funding instruments are not only for those people who are supported by government. If you look at the Comprehensive Agricultural Support Program, we support every farmer who applies, who need assistance in agricultural infrastructure or, you know, whatever needs that those farmers are. Those go through the provincial departments of agriculture. And the reason for that is because the Comprehensive Agricultural Support Program, in terms of the funding instrument by government, is the division of revenue, which means those are actually designated funding windows that go through the provinces. That will be the same for Ilima Litsima, which really targets our subsistence farmers in terms of food security production and giving them support to access production inputs. Again, that window of funding goes through our provincial departments of agriculture, who have got relevant members of the executive councils that are there in the various provinces. In Western Cape is Honorable Mayor, in Eastern Cape is Mayor Peters, in Northwest is Mayor Despo Mohono, In Limpopo, it's Mena Ndindalane. In KZN, it's Mebongi Sitole Moloi. In Mpumalanga is MEC Mandla Msibi. In Gauteng, it's actually Mr. Pakstau, and in the structuring of Gauteng, actually, it's both agriculture and economic development. So different provinces will have agriculture and maybe another like environment as a combination. Others will be rural development and land in the way they are configured. In Free State is Mr. Pulwana, and then in Northern Cape is, remind me, Lebu, I've forgotten me. Or you will say it when, when you have an opportunity. But what is interesting is that actually in a majority of our provinces, we've got women MECs. There are only 4 male MECs actually in our agricultural system. And I would really advise a number of you to engage with the provincial departments, because you'll actually find that there's a lot of support that provincial departments do give to women farmers and producers generally. Even the Department of Small and Medium Enterprises, particularly those who operate at a tertiary level in terms of agricultural support, they do actually work with us and work with the farmers to support them on business development and other needs that they might be having as business enterprises. In terms of funding, we also have our development finance institutions, such as the Land Bank, which Minister has actually recapitalized. We've got IDC, who also fund agribusiness enterprises in agriculture, and we've identified poultry as one of those that we want to focus on, and sugar, particularly because of the master plans that we've done, where we've got a clear plan in terms of where the industries would require support. We also have launched a fund with IDC on agro industry financing to really support those who are small, let me say, smallholder, medium, and to commercial, who want a kind of injection of finance to capitalize their businesses. We've also worked with the financial institution, and sooner we will be announcing a package of blended funding, where together with the finance institution, they will give loan and we will give a grant complement to be able to support farmers that are there. And again, all of these funding instruments I've mentioned do not discriminate farmers who are not actually having a lease through government properties or whose land was acquired through the assistance of government. We assist any producer and any agri-enterprise that will come forth to require the kind of support. I know that that may not be enough because many of us will require the funding, but we do, where funding is available, do reach out to as many farmers as is possible. For instance, the funding we gave through PESI, again, it was any producers who were actually operating at the size of a soccer field and less. With regards to the COVID intervention, it was any smallholder whose returns are between 20,000 and $1 million. Again, there was no discrimination in terms of the person, whether that person is working on government land. And actually, majority of the people who we support are not operating in government land. A number of them are either working in communal areas, others are actually operating in the lands that they've acquired on their own, or even leasing from other private individuals, not necessarily government. Thank you very much. I think I've addressed those questions. And thank you to the people who made an intervention on the presentation that has been made. From the question, it's clear that we might have another different session to actually engage, because a number of issues that were raised as constraints are critical and they require our engagement. They may not fit necessarily on responding to the outcomes that we received from the dialogues preparing for the UN Food Systems Summit, but they are critical in terms of enabling us understand what we need to do to strengthen our food systems locally and nationally. Thank you very much, Lebu, and thanks to our panelists and all the participants.
Thank you very much, Minister. The MEC for Northern Cape is MEC Manopole. MEC
Thank you very much.
MEC for Northern Cape, thank you very much. We have less than 30 minutes to conclude this webinar, and I believe we will keep time. I've got three farmers, women farmers, and line up here. They know the value of time. They will respect that time. The first one, now we are listening to the voices of the farmers themselves, is Miss Luisa Maloka, who is a citrus farmer in the Northwest Province. She's farming at smallholder level. She will be sharing with us her views on food systems. Ms. Maloka, can I hand over to you, Madam?
Thank you. Honorable Minister Togo Didiza, Chairperson of the Commission for Gender Equality, Meta Maramatebula, Her Excellency Ambassador of the EU, Dr. Rina Kionka, Mebutile, the moderator, government officials, and fellow farmers. Dumela Mbagaitu. I'm a citrus farmer. I'm based in the Northwest at a small dorp called Moinoi. I acquired the farm through the then Department of Land and Rural Development Plus program in 2016. The farm consists of 66 hectares. On this farm, the core business is citrus. We work with citrus, and the varieties that we are planted are oranges like Valencias, the Premiers, the Meads. Also the soft citrus called the Clementines, usually is referred to as Narkis. And we also have Lisbon lemons. We supply markets such as Mahali citrus, which is for juicing, Fruit also for juicing, and we also supply the informal markets. I refer most of the time to my farm as we, because of the succession plan that I have. Minister, I want to point out to you that I'm over 60. I have the will and the energy and the knowledge to do what I am doing. And I'm grooming my son, Thuso Moagi Mogotsi, also to take over the reins when I'm not here next time. And the future goals for this enterprise is to expand. By expansion, we mean to cultivate more of exportable cultivars. We also need to revamp and improve the current irrigation system. We also plan to create employment for agriculture graduates. We intend to share knowledge and to plow back and to increase the number of Black citrus farmers in the Northwest. One would realize that from long ago, when you entered Moinoi, all the way towards Bosuk, you would smell citrus. We want to bring them back and recruit people to come back into citrus farming, therefore extending the citrus farms. Ever since I've been here since 2016, there are few achievements. I was the winner of the Female Entrepreneur Award, Smallholder category 2018. I am grateful for the prizes that I received from the government. Some of the money was used to procure production inputs and to improve here and there on the farm. The money that was meant to be, that was said to be for infrastructure, part of it was used, and some of it since 2018, it's still to be used. Some of the projects are not completed. I was also a speaker during the CGA means Citrus Growers Association, during the CGA Summit on Black Grower Development, and that was in 2019. I serve as a member of the Citrus Growers Association Grower Development Company, as a member of Chamber, and also I am chairperson of the Northwest Study Group. I have been nominated as an observer to the Citrus Research International Board of Directors. Minister, I am confident to say to you that we do ensure safe and nutritional food for all. I am confidently saying this because I have recently obtained Global GAP certification. Producing healthy food, nutrition, it's inbuilt within us as women. We have started this safety culture from an early age, from the level of the family. It was not quite a big thing for us to get certification for Global GAP. Getting Global GAP, therefore, has empowered us to say we are now going to be able to export our fruit to overseas countries. This farm also hosts from time to time interns and learnership programs for the learners from the colleges of agriculture, such as Taung College of Agriculture, also Fort Cox College of Agriculture, and also Scientific Roots Training Provider. I am actively involved in the recruitment and encouragement of community members, the youth thereof, in my immediate community that are being trained through Scientific Roots and AgriCita on level 4 citrus business management. I am proud to announce that the other group of youth that were doing NQF level 2 plant production have recently completed. Now we are busy with the NQF level 4. It would have been better for us, Minister, if we could get more financial support and involvement from the provincial department. I am aware that citrus as a commodity seems to be sort of a new thing, a new entrant on the market. We are ready through the extension officers from the CGA to say, come on board, let us learn together, let us grow together. There is a wealth of information to share. There is a lot of material to share from our Citrus Academy. So we are encouraging the agricultural graduates and also the officials from the government to please work with us and not work against us. We need on-farm infrastructure. The farms that we have been allocated on the LEASE program, that for which we are very grateful. You will realize that they are very old farms and they are not compliant with the current standards. In conclusion, can I please, Minister, invite you to find time in your busy schedule? Come and visit us. Let us proudly show you what we are doing. I will take you through to all the citrus farms in the Northwest to show you that this is where we have started. This is where we are today. There is a lot for you to share. Some of the things very, very sweet, some of the things very bitter, but we are here. We will make you proud. Please come and visit us. Thank you very, very much.
Wow. Thank you very much, Meloisa. I can't just believe it that I'm here hearing a woman at smallholder level saying, I've got a global gap certificate and I'm willing to take this over to young people. Thank you very much. We appreciate. I am now calling on another smallholder farmer. Is a young person in Gauteng by the name of Lerato Senakhomo, who owns Senakhomo Farming. Lerato, over to you, Ceci. Lerato?
Hello, hello.
Go ahead.
Okay. Good afternoon, Honorable Minister Thoko Dikiza, and all protocol observed. I am Lerato Senakhomo, the CEO of Senakhomo Farming, a young, vibrant, energetic farmer speaking on behalf of women farmers in the Gauteng province. I am proud and honored for the presence of many special guests, both national and international. The year 2021 marks 65th anniversary since 20,000 women of the different races marched to the Union Building to deliver petition against policies of racist apartheid government on the 9th of August 1956. For productive resources as men, they could increase their yields on their farms by 30%. Ladies and gentlemen, as a young farmer, I started farming in 2010, achieved farming qualifications in 2012. My farm is categorized in mixed farming. The farm has 435 hectares. We are leasing 80 hectares, which gives us a total of 515 hectares. On the farm, we have about 150 Nguni stud cattle, 80 hectares of maize that harvested gives us 366 tons. We also offer training to graduates and other local farmers. We are given 12 hectares to the local community as part of our social program. We also provide mentorship program to other farmers around. For me to join farming, I was introduced by the sector by my lovely parents and met the late Mepi Nkidlamini. I was encouraged on how highly she spoke about the Department of Agriculture, on how it assists women into agricultural sector. For me to join in for the Nguni cattle program, I was introduced by the late Mme Primrose Gineilwe, the Queen of Nguni Magatu, to join. The fortunate part of it, I got to receive 72 cattle Nguni program. I then benefited as a young woman. Remember, this is just not a grant, it is a loan that's put there to uplift other farmers. I then was fortunate enough to see the women involvement exchanging information amongst our study group that we went and attended. Into the sheep and goats production, mainly having two markets. One informal, where we sell our sheep to local communities. The formal market is where we supply L&M catering for 15 sheep, slaughtered and packaged every week. Our huge markets are the Stockpile Society scheme, where our customers gather to pay monthly contribution of getting a sheep or a cattle at the end of the year. The food system, this year, we are asking for a movable abattoir to be made available so that we can be able to cut costs on sending our live production to a nearby abattoir. On the farm, we only have packaging unit certified as of accessibility to produce and package. On our vegetable production, last season during the pandemic, we planted spinach and pumpkin, and we were able to donate to other local farmers around. I have obtained the following qualifications from Buhle Farmers Academy. From Buhle's Farmers Academy, I've obtained livestock production, poultry production, hydroponics production, and project management. And also I was awarded a Star of Buhle Award. I thank all the departments mentioned for being part of my success journey. In progress of the journey as a young farmer, I have worked very hard and recognized in the following. I was nominated for an NEC Special Award. I got the Grain SA Awards. I got the Gauteng Young Farmer Award. I also got the Gauteng Women Farmer First Runner-Up Award, a recognition award from the Department of Mpumalanga Province. I also had my latest achievement was the National Emerging Beef Farmer Award for 2020. Actions required to be positioned as role players for women. It's a comprehensive investment to all mechanization, support, training, and skills development. Consume to empower and provide women farmers development funding. Establishment of market should be accessibility. Plans for the future. The farm is based next to the informal settlement of ±200 households. I plead with the Honorable Minister and the National Department that please assist Senako Mupami with 25,000 layer structure with an automated feeding system that will create 12 permanent jobs for youth and disability people. And I also plead, have full accessibility of funds available for women, especially young women with more determination of where they want to go in life. Open a value chain supply chain. I once again thank you for the opportunity given. I am Lerato Senako, a young 30-year-old farmer from Gauteng Province. Thank you for the opportunity given. Malibongwe igama lamakhosikazi. Thank you.
Malibongwe Lerato igama lamakhosikazi. Indeed, a 30-year-old young person owning a farm, succession planning. She got it from her parents and she continued and pestered her way to get her way through as a young person in the country. Lerato, thank you very much. We are very happy for you, and we have noted, I hope the minister have noted your actions that you are proposing in taking food systems in the country forward. Our last farmer who is a commercial farmer is Lerato Moagi. She is based in Limpopo province. For repetition for emphasis, I said she's a young person, she's 30 years as well. She is a commercial farmer. It's not as gloomy as we sometimes paint the picture. There's room for improvement, but there are young people out there who are farming in South Africa and at a commercial level. Lerato, Tato, rather, over to you. Tato Moagi.
Good day. I would just like to share my screen quickly.
Go ahead, Tato. You can share your screen.
Is my screen visible?
It's coming up, yeah.
Yes, it is, Tato.
Okay. Good day, Honorable Minister. Good day, Honorable Minister, HODs and attendees. My name is Tato Moagi Muganda. I grew up in Johannesburg and moved to Modimolle with my family to start farming in 2014. I'm 30 years old, a mom to a 3-month-old girl, and a businesswoman. I consider myself a farmer and an agricultural entrepreneur. Currently, I'm managing projects in Limpopo, Gauteng, and Western Cape. I'm an indigenous livestock farmer, specializing in the breeding and production of cattle, sheep, goats, and pigs. I started farming commercially 7 years ago in 2014 after studying a BSc in agriculture. I started my career in agriculture as I have always had a passion for nature, biology, and science. I identified an opportunity to make an income for myself and the community by starting an agricultural business. I saw the opportunities and gap for young Black women participating in this niche sector. I presented my father with a comprehensive business plan outlining the potential and opportunities in agriculture. We decided to purchase an ongoing concern, a Dorper stud farm with 3 million, which we bought on auction. We registered Lekhaila Banaring Farms, myself as the major shareholder, and began developing the farm and investing a further 900,000 over a period of 7 years on infrastructure such as fencing for security, irrigation development and design, offices, housing, and ablution facilities for farm workers and students, extension on production facilities, fire breaks, licensing, and compliance. We developed the farm into a mixed farming operation where we produce livestock, meat, products, vegetables, grains, and fodder. We are currently working on developing a feedlot unit for cattle and pigs. Our main markets are a mixture of informal and formal markets. We've produced vegetables and potatoes for McCain, vegetables for Tshwane Green, Pretoria Fresh Market, Choppies, and Pick n Pay Modimolle. In 2015, I was awarded the Young Farmer of the Year and Female Entrepreneur in the Waterberg District and Limpopo Province, qualifying for the National Award. I was awarded a total of 150,000 from the Department of Agriculture, which I invested in infrastructure and mechanization development on the farm. We were one step closer towards creating a vertically integrated feedlot system where we would develop infrastructure and acquire technology to assist in the production of fodder, livestock, and processing of meat. In 2020, we were awarded an entry-level tractor from the Farmer Support Program from the local Department of Agriculture in Modimolle under the provincial program. The tractor assisted us in unlocking the power to be able to plow, plant, fertilize, and harvest on larger pieces of land. Previously, we had been hiring mechanization services to assist us with the production of maize, potatoes, and fodder under 2 5-hectare pivots and 5 hectares of open land production. With the assistance of a tractor, we were now able to cut down our feed costs by at least 40%, as now we're able to plant, harvest, and process grass, barley, oats, lucerne, and maize to produce our own high quality and nutritious feed. We have now adopted a grass-fed system with supplement of grain-based mixes. This allows us to market our brand as organic and free range. The qualities of grass-fed meat products is the yellow fat and marbling of the meat. In our business, we sell live animals and meat cuts. Our formal markets include feedlots, and informal markets include individual households and people who need livestock for religious and cultural purposes. We believe in developing a vertically integrated meat production system that can ensure a circular cycle of inputs and resources. This ensures sustainable production of nutritious, safe, healthy meat or meat products that a consumer can be able to identify and understand the product's origins and its diet and nutritional value. In 2016, I had the opportunity to travel to Israel, organized by Investec, to learn about international markets and food systems innovation. In 2017, I had another opportunity to travel to China to study agricultural markets and food safety systems at Nanjing Agriculture University, organized by the Department of Agriculture in partnership with the Chinese Republic. In 2017, I was awarded the Nuffield International Farming Scholarship, and I researched integrated food production systems in developing countries. The scholarship gave me the opportunity to travel the world and interact with business, academics, civil society, and diplomatic platforms. I had the opportunity to travel and learn in countries such as China, Philippines, Singapore, Germany, United Kingdom, United States of America, and Zimbabwe. The scholarship gave me insight in global agriculture and a platform for my involvement in agri-advocacy, and I have been invited to contribute on platforms and forums hosted by the United Nations, FAO, and international business. Through agri-advocacy, I've been able to contribute on platforms that affect international and national policy. This has been a way that women and youth have been able to contribute to platforms that that suggest policies to national governments. In 2019, I was a part of the Presidential Land Reform Committee assigned with identifying opportunities and mechanisms that land reform could be implemented in South Africa. I have been able to use my research and business experience to start my own consultancy business called Black Sheep Agribusiness. The aim of the company is to implement agricultural development in communities. The aim of development is to optimize production through the use of technology and innovations, develop capacity through training and experiential learning, access to informal and formal markets, and balancing the socio-economic environment by identifying and managing risks, identifying opportunities in the direct community of operation. Since 2019, we've worked on projects in Western Cape and Gauteng. Currently, Black Sheep Agribusiness, in partnership with MTN, has been working on developing a mobile application since the beginning of 2020. The app and website is called agriemporium.co.za, an online livestock auction platform where farmers and producers can sell their livestock, such as cattle, sheep, goats, poultry, and game. The app is going to launch in September 2021. The aim of the app is to link farmers directly to the market by offering a digital platform to market and sell live animals. The app also creates jobs for drivers and inspectors. Drivers who have livestock trucks or trailers can register to be able to accept jobs on the app, to be able to transport auctioned livestock from the farmers to their final destination. Inspector jobs are for people who have experience in livestock and are used to verify farms and their online data, assist farmers in maintaining their profiles and auctions. The app is a way that we can create a direct link between farmer and the consumer, as buyers can review and rate the seller's products based on their purchasing experience. On the production side of the business, we're currently in partnership with a local farmer in the Western Cape to produce indigenous green leafy vegetables in Herman and Paarl, Western Cape. We currently supply vendors in townships and towns in Cape Town with Corvo, an indigenous green leafy vegetable. The aim of the project is to grow the indigenous leafy vegetables for retail markets. I would like to thank the organizing team for the work and effort put in the production of this program. I look forward to dedicating my life's efforts towards the development of women and youth in agriculture through business and advocacy. I have lots of ideas on how we can support the development of young women and young people in the sector, as when I share my experience with other young people and women, they can identify with all the challenges and battles it takes to be able to become a commercial farmer in the sector. I hope that the industry can be able to work together, both business, civil society, as well as government, to be able to that we can have comprehensive policies and ways we can implement change on the ground. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much, Tato. Tell me of an agripreneur. I have just listened to one, and she did not just tell, she showed. Thank you very much, Tato, for your time. We know how busy you get, but thank you and for sharing this with us. Much appreciated. We are now moving to the last bit of our webinar. We are behind time, but I hope we will be concluding. I am now calling on our sector partner from Total Energies, Ms. Mpho Siaga, also to share her message of support and commitment into this business of food systems in South Africa. Mpho, over to you.
All right, thank you. I've unmuted. Thank you, Lebu, as the program director. Thank you so much. Good afternoon. Let me say good afternoon, Dimasiari, Dumelang Sanbonani, My name is Mpho, my last name is Siyaga. I'm the current Corporate Affairs Manager for Total Energies Marketing South Africa. First of all, I would like to extend a very warm greeting to the Honorable Minister, Thoko Didiza herself as the Minister of Agriculture, Land Reform and Rural Development. I would like to extend very warm greeting as well to Her Excellency, the EU Ambassador, Rina Giyonka, to my fellow panel members, the Program Director as well, Lebu, a very job well done thus far. Ladies and gentlemen, all protocol observed. I start my message this afternoon with a quote by none other than one of the greatest statesmen to ever have lived, which is so, so apt and so deserving for a webinar of this nature. None other than Nelson Mandela, who himself said, open quote, "If you want to change the world, help the woman," close quote. I think having heard the stories of Louisa, Lerato, as well as Tato, how inspiring. We are not negating all of the stories, that have come through from all of the people that asked questions earlier on through the webinar. We've listened, we've heard, certainly there are challenges, but we're saying there's certainly work that is going on through the background. Certainly as Total Energies, we are coming to the fore and we're saying we've listened to the challenges. We are working together with the department, with the Honorable Minister herself in trying to address some of the challenges that you yourselves are facing through the industry. Let me say that myself today, as the current Corporate Affairs Manager of Total Energies, I'm saying what an honor it is for me today to be surrounded by some of the powerhouses here that have joined through the webinar, the giants who are here today on this webinar, who are plowing considerable effort in ensuring that considerable efforts are being plowed in ensuring that transformation is being achieved in the agricultural sector here today. Ladies and gentlemen, surely as the private sector, we recognize that closing gender gaps in the world of work is key to addressing inequality, not only in South Africa, but in the world, as we've heard through the various speakers that have spoken today. I reiterate and I state that the empowerment of women is central to addressing the inequality in South Africa. It is on this basis that we took on the challenge as Total Energies. Some of you may have noticed that we've recently changed our name. We were formerly known as Total South Africa. We have now become known as Total Energies. As you may know, you recognize the branding that is behind me. We are now known as Total Energies. How has that come about? We are now becoming known as Total Energies. We are venturing into more than just petroleum. We are now venturing into the space of gas, of biomass, of solar. And of course, we are recognizing that who other than women to take up space in all of these various industries. So more than 20 years ago, Total Energies took up the challenge of partnering with the Department of Agriculture, Land Reform and Rural Development in ensuring or fast tracking and ensuring that the development of women in the areas of agriculture as well as fisheries was prioritized. You're probably sitting at home and wondering, how is it that Total has come to partner with the department? Well, maybe let me give you some background as to how it is that we've partnered with the department in ensuring that the development of women, particularly within the agricultural sector, has been prioritized. Well, essentially, it's been through the Female Entrepreneur Program. Well, since its inception in 1999, we've partnered with the department. Well, this program is essentially about ensuring that we turn the ordinary woman into becoming an ambitious female entrepreneur. This program essentially, as I've said, gained its inception in 1999. It's a program through which the efforts of women, primarily young women and women with disabilities, primarily in the agricultural sector, are publicly acknowledged and rewarded for their efforts in terms of making strides towards food security, job creation, economic growth, and particularly poverty alleviation. Now, many of you would have seen me on the stage, you know, in 2019, standing on the stage, they publicly acknowledging the women that have made strides, you know, in terms of, you know, the women that are making strides in terms of agriculture, forestries, and fisheries. But as we know that COVID had a tremendous impact, not only in South Africa, but across the world. But as Total, you know, we did not just, you know, abandon the department, given that COVID had hit. We made a particular commitment, you know, as the private sector to say, we are still going to commit monetary funds to support subsistence farmers, particularly the commercial farmers that are operating in the agricultural sector that had been hard hit by COVID, to ensure that they still receive the monetary support that they need to ensure that their businesses do not go under. So I think that's a tremendous, you know, support that's been given by Total Energies. So really, this demonstrates what the minister, the honorable minister, had spoken about earlier. One of the initiatives that really demonstrate what can be achieved through public-private partnerships. So I really think, you know, this, if I wasn't in front of all of you, I would say that deserves a round of applause. But really, it really does, because it shows, again, we did not as Total say, look, because of this COVID, we cannot recognize these awards, we cannot recognize the women that are making strides. But, you know, we did say we will continue to support the farmers, the commercial farmers that were making it, particularly women that will continue to making strides against all odds. So really, as a stakeholder, you know, as Total Energies, we are proud, and we're saying, we are proud really to have continued to support the Female Entrepreneur Program, and we will continue to support that particular program for years and for decades to come. Now, extracting a bit of the sentiments that were expressed by the Honorable President as part of his Women's Day speech, I just want to reiterate, Lebo, I know as the program director, you're watching me with a closed clock, but I just want to conclude with these particular words and say to everybody on this particular webinar, we take cognizance that there are still challenges, you know, that we need to deal with. We are not saying, and as the minister said, we're not negating that there are challenges, but we're saying, let us recognize the efforts that have been taken, you know, in terms of, you know, to accelerate the pace of women empowerment, particularly within the agricultural sector. Certainly, as our president has said in his Women's Day speech on the 9th of August, let us all continue to be determined. Let us all strive to build a South Africa in which all women will enjoy all of the rights, all of the freedoms, and all of the liberties which our Constitution guarantees. Although we recognize that although we have come a long way to empower the women of this country, we still have a long way to go. Let us continue to strive towards the goal of women empowerment. I myself, as a young woman in corporate, recognize there's still a long way to go. And I myself am taking strides to recognize that I myself have a duty to pull up and to empower other young women that want to come within the corporate environment. So recognizing that time is not on my side, and I do need to conclude, I wish you all really from the bottom of my heart a happy Women's Month, and yeah, keep well, keep safe, and I wish to see you all soon. But for now, keep safe. Let's continue to make strides in achieving women empowerment. Thank you so much.
Thank you, and thank you again, Paul, for that passionate commitment that you've just made to the department, to the women in the sector, expressing the intention and the aspiration of Total Energies in women empowerment in the sector. And we do appreciate Total Energies has been our long ever partner in this scourge of women empowerment in the country, and we do appreciate that. We still would hold hands and make our little bit in the sector. Thank you again. Our last speaker in this webinar is none other than the country representative for Food and Agriculture Organization in South Africa, Dr. Brave Ndisale. I am inviting her over also to share her message of support and her commitment to this business. Dr. Ndisale, over to you.
Thank you, Lebo, for a wonderful facilitation. I am overjoyed and very excited to actually be here on this platform. And before I could even say my message of commitment and support, let me actually honor and greet Her Excellency the Minister, Didiza. I thank you for the invitation, but also Her Excellency the Ambassador of EU on this platform. I would also want to greet the chairperson of Commission for Gender Equality. It is nice to meet you, Ms. Matebula, on the platform. Thank you so much. This to me is so rewarding, and I'm so excited about the three very good examples of women achieving in food and agriculture. I'm so inspired, actually. And I kept on saying, I think one of my message of support is to support the department, and it has been said already, come up with a platform of good practice and showcasing lessons learned from all these successes. How can these stories be told over and over to be able to support and actually showcase that good things can come out? FAO, as you know, its mandate, vision is zero hunger. I'm not going to go into the two messages, I'll just go in one message. The first message I was going to speak to was to touch on the question, why gender equality and women's empowerment? But I think that has been well elaborated. And so for FAO, for us, we believe that to achieve zero hunger, to achieve food security and nutrition, and also to ensure that we have a just, inclusive, transformative food system, we actually cannot do that without achieving gender equality and in food and agriculture. It's because women are so key, and the reasons are very elaborated. So gender is actually a cross-cutting theme in FAO and in many UN agencies. You could see already that in the cooperation framework of the 17 agencies in South Africa, gender, youth, social protection, they stand out as key themes in their own right. Key theme, gender equality and women's empowerment stands out. Why? Because we cannot achieve eradication of poverty, addressing inequality, addressing issues of food security without achieving gender equality and women's empowerment. And so for this reason, the UN Food System Summit actually picked gender as a lever, as one of the 4 levers. So it stands out as a lever because no matter how much we push in the action tracks, we will not achieve anything if we do not focus on issues of gender equality. So my key of a support message, because we work very closely with the Department of Agriculture, Land Reform and Rural Development and many sectors, but also with partners, I'm going to focus more on the second message that I brought, on support on the how, where, how can we support? FAO is a technical organization which brings knowledge and technical cooperation. So through the technical cooperation programs, and of course, bringing the platform of support through partners, whether it is private sector, farmers organizations, civil society, academia, research institutions. In many countries, we also work with parliamentarians a lot. We haven't done that in South Africa, but we believe creating alliance with parliamentarians is so key in pushing in an oversight on issues of achieving gender equality and women's empowerment. 4 areas that I thought would actually put on the table, and I'm so glad that all these 4 areas have been mentioned very eloquently by the minister and all my colleagues on the platform. The first one is we support the productive capacity of women farmers by ensuring equitable access to productive resources, inputs, technology, including digital technology and services. One of the areas that FAO has gone in and want to work more with here is establishing or working in innovative homestead food production, which is actually called home gardens. In some aspect, we call them homestead food production programs that will equip rural women, but also urban agriculture with the knowledge and resources needed to consume nutritious foods. including indigenous food. These have also been taken, but FAO is keen and would want to work with partners to enhance that. But also one key issue that actually has come so clearly is to enhance men and women's farmers' access to and control of overproductive resources. This includes ensuring security tenure of land, extension services, particularly rural services, helping producer organizations or farmers in a collective action, because for economies of scale, individual farmers sometimes it's difficult to lobby or have access to actually productive resources. So FAO does work with the government and partners on how we can ensure that there's that collectiveness of farmers or smallholder farmers, particularly women, to actually access the productive resources. In terms of land, FAO actually is focusing so much on supporting government to guarantee women's land rights. And in doing this, FAO has actually even worked with governments to ensure that the countries can even monitor the indicators of women's land rights. And so we provide capacity on how we are able to ensure that the government actually through the legal framework is actually able to monitor the access to land rights. To provide land, do they have the right? How do we monitor and have some impact assessment? We do also through the implementation of voluntary guidelines, create multi-stakeholder platforms where we can engage civil society and other stakeholders to ensure that there is actually a responsible governance to land tenure in terms of land, fisheries, forestry in the context of national food security and achieving nutrition. In order to do this, we are able to ensure that within those guidelines, there should be and there has to be ownership legislation to ensure that women's rights are upheld. So FAO does provide this support to the government. Secondly, it's also on how do we support to ensure that there are special measures to support rural women's economic activities in the agri-food value chains. And to do this, we put a lot of emphasis, and this has been spoken about, is placing in financial service support mechanism targeting rural women and of course urban women in economic activities as producers, but as processors, as traders, and as entrepreneurs. How can we support the government? And I'm glad that South Africa already has these mechanisms in place, but we support countries enhancing an alliance of national financial institutions, an alliance, and I underline an alliance of financial national institutions to implement gender transformative finance mechanisms that meet the needs and priorities of women, whether it is rural, urban, formal, or informal, and they support the empowerment. So sometimes financial institutions can be competitive. FAO supports we work with the government and partners to ensure that both on the receiver and the provider, there is a mechanism of ensuring that both are protected. In particular, the vulnerable groups are supported, but they're also empowered to be able to actually access these viable resources. So that is another area we do. We also strengthen women-run businesses in value chain that link rural and peri-urban and urban areas by establishing gender-sensitive business development centers. This has been actually highlighted, coming up with a one-stop center, but developing gender-sensitive business development centers is key because in many countries where there are business solution centers of business service centers, you'll find that even with that, they're not as gender sensitive, so women still fall out. How do we ensure we deliberately target that those centers serve the women and those centers are close to the communities, close to the villages, so that those services can be actually tailored to the women's needs because of the multiplicity of women's challenges. Walking long distances can be dangerous for women. How do we ensure that security, how close can these services be, but also providing the solution to their businesses. So that is the second area that would place that would actually want to support. We also have supported in establishment of supporting the government in measures that reduce gender inequality in food security and nutrition. And these are social protection measures. And I think South Africa is one of the leading countries that has very good social protection measures. What FAO and other agencies try to do is answer the question, as these social protection measures are being implemented, are they really nutrition sensitive? Are they addressing issues of poverty? And so accompanied by impact assessment to be able to ensure that the social protection plays a role in driving a transformative food system that actually has outcomes that we are all desired to achieve. So that additional element of analysis on these measures. And finally, but not least, this has actually been mentioned, I think, only once. FAO supports and works with the government and stakeholders to ensure the availability of sex and age disaggregated data and analysis for monitoring gender dated impact. The chair of the Gender Commission mentioned it, but we do actually do a robust way of ensuring that whatever data is collected, it is disaggregated so that all the programs are monitored, and so that we should know that whether the policies are impactful or there's need that some things that need to be changed. Are they responsive to the interventions and addressing the challenges? So those are the 4 areas pledge that would support through the technical cooperation programs, but mostly through partnership with all different stakeholders, with development partners, private sector, and so on and so forth, with all the other UN agencies. But in the end, I am very excited to have been here and to hear all these very good stories. And I cannot finish by congratulating South Africa for actually coming up with a month like August, a month of August where we honor women of importance that actually have taught us and have made us what we are now because of their fights. So yes, this is a year of Mama Caroleta Makeke, realizing women's rights. It's a month that takes talks, and I'm proud to be part of it and congratulate everybody. Thank you very much for giving me the time. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Dr. Ndisale, for that. Those 4 cardinal commitments that you are making to the government, particularly to the minister and the department with those 4 commitments. We really do appreciate. Even you honoring this webinar is appreciated. Thank you very much. I am going to take this opportunity to hand over to the host of this webinar, the host of these Women Locked In Here, Minister Thoko Didiza, to do her final closing remarks. Minister. Minister.
Thank you very much, Lebu. You want me to summarize?
To thank your guests, we'll do vote of thanks.
No, thank you very much, Lebu, as our moderator, and also to the various panelists and participants. I must say that this was a very exciting webinar. It was also an eye-opener. We got to know what the challenges women are facing for them to be able to advance. There were also in the chat group some of the women who actually want to enter the sector and indicated their area of interest, some of them in poultry. And I must say that we appreciate those. And for me, listening to the women farmers, young and old, who have actually expressed and shared with us the journey they have traveled, one can actually see the effort that they as entrepreneurs have played in succeeding, but at the same time, how they have shared their own knowledge by lifting others. And that's why actually the adage that says, if you educate a woman, you educate the nation, is actually reflected both from Lerato, from Tato, from the citrus farmer. All of them, they were sharing what they are doing in addition to building their enterprises, but to also have some social responsibility to the communities that they live with. Interesting story came out of Tato, how she has actually, out of this business, also grown a consultancy business to be able to reach out in support of other farmers that are struggling in some of the areas. We also had some of the women who actually were indicated the things that they are doing. The one who has developed an app, which she had highlighted here, how it could be useful. But also we, through the chat, we actually saw a number of women who are mobilized and are doing some work where they are. They may not be known to a majority of us. And I think this is where a platform such as this enable us to share information, but also share knowledge and expertise. We had the same last week. We had the interesting webinar on youth, where both young men and young women who are in the sector were actually sharing with us what they are doing, which really shows that our food system is on course, and we're able to build, a young cohort of producers and agribusiness entrepreneurs who will continue to strengthen our food system. But all of them have indicated where we need to hold each other as government and as private sector. And I would like to thank Total Energy in the journey they've traveled with us since the mid-2000s. They've been one of the dependable stakeholder who really, when it was not fashionable, saw value in supporting women in agriculture. At that time, a lot of women were still in the primary production, but they were not deterred. And I'm not sure whether selfishly, Total has been with us because women do buy fuel from their outlets to be able to ensure that their mechanization is supported. But be that as it may, it's a win-win situation. We buy from you, but you also invest in us. And that's the partnership we want to grow. And I've heard also from the citrus industry, some of the development work that they are supporting. What all of this shows is that government working with the private sector, our farmers and our communities, we can actually achieve more. At the same time, we had our partners from the EU as well as FAO who are also saying, here we are, we will be willing to walk this journey with you in terms of strengthening our national and our global food systems. I know that at times we do have some tiffs, as it always happens in the family, and Your Excellency, Ambassador Rina, you know that the issue of geographic indications started with the wine, where we had to have some boxing match with yourselves on Uzo and Grappa in the early 2000s. But today, we are now developing our geographic indications, such as the rooibos, and I'm sure there are many that are going to develop after this, because we've got very rich fauna and fiber in South Africa, some of which is indigenous in our space, around which we can grow and be able to actually link some of our commodities to their history and their culture, but also share that with the globe. And I must say that I'm really happy about your expression, particularly of the European community, of how you can continue to work with us. Dr. Brave, thank you very much from FAO. And please send our thanks to DG. We have worked with you as an organization, and we have benefited actually not just as government, but I know last year the Solidarity Fund drew from your expertise on how they could actually address some of the responsibility they had on food security. And just to say to our women farmers and cooperatives, these are our partners, not just as government, but also they are partners with South African communities, particularly in the food and agricultural sector. So they are there willing and able to work with you. It's important for me to actually thank our participants, because all of us as panelists, we could have been pretty here on the platform talking to ourselves, but the participation of more than 178 when we started in this webinar was very valuable to give us, information that otherwise we might not have had. We will be able to strengthen our own system to engage better with women producers. We also had others talking about a proposal of a women's fund, improving our communications platform so that we can profile majority of women who are in the sector, not only to build confidence, but actually to encourage some of the women who may be scared of entering the agricultural sector. And when they see some of these women and how they have made it, they would actually be encouraged. So profiling doesn't only give confidence, which it must, but it also shares the knowledge with others who are not there. I'd like to thank Vangi for actually the work that we have been doing, supported by NEPAD and the UN team, to really make sure that as a country, we have these dialogues and be able to create a response from South Africa on how we can strengthen our food systems. I would also want to thank partner departments who have been participating with us in this journey, because we know that food systems actually straddle along a number of sectors in terms of our government system, and would like to really thank them for having worked with us. Our MECs of agriculture in the various provinces and municipalities who have been participating in this dialogue, we want to say thank you to them for the valuable insight that would assist us in having a South Africa's position in the UN summit. And really, Vangi, calling you out of your retirement, I know, but also I want to thank Fruit SA for having allowed you this time, being their chairperson, to really give of your time and of the industry time to work with us to actually produce South Africa's position paper for the UN Food Summit. Thank you again, Lebu, for your moderation. I know sometimes program directors are never thanked because we assume it's their job, but it's a lot of work to organize and mobilize us and put us into line. And to Daniel, who was supporting us with the system, would like to thank you very much. To our Gender Commission, Chairperson Tamara, again, I would like to say thanks to you and the organization for really ensuring that at all times you work with us, but at the same time you monitor what you are doing as government and the legislature in ensuring that we really empower our women and be able to transform our system so that it can be, able to reach our objective of gender equality in our society. Thank you very much. And really, I wish you all well in your endeavors. It's not only in August that we talk about women in agriculture, it's 365 days in a year and every year, because we hold the sky of the earth and we hold our nations together. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Minister. Thank you to all. The webinar is adjourned. Thank you.